Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Bob?
I am super happy. We are back on our Tuesday thing. We'll be back here every Tuesday for the foreseeable future. Hello to everybody out there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being there. Um, Hi, Sherry.
Hey, Sherry.
Um, we're so happy you guys are here. We have a lot to talk about. We have a great guest that I have a lot of cool questions for. It's we've made it to April. We've made it past tax day. It's almost May. Uh, the world still feels like it's teetering on the edge of crumbling. Um,
It
but uh,
is.
but we persevere nonetheless. Um, do you want to start? Or you want me to start? Because I'm folks. I'm going to let you know right now
Does
that
it look like we've worked this stuff out?
I'm just saying
We do have,
there's a topic that we're going to be discussing. If you've been
there is
paying
an
attention
open
to
topic.
if you've been paying attention to Mike's social media over the past 24 hours, you will know what he wants to rant about. I subsequently also was upset by it and am slightly relieved. But I'm going to give a general thing. There's a good friend of ours, Don Simpson, who created a fantastic character called Megaton Man, and Don has been doing this independently for decades upon decades, and had a new Kickstarter that was going to be coming out. It was supposed to be started, and at the last minute, Kickstarter said, "No, we are denying your Kickstarter because the questions that were asked prior to the denial had to do with one of the multiple, like there's 60 creators on this book. One of the creators who drew like 4 pages is based in Iran, and so Kickstarter has a Iranian policy that we just found out about, and said because of that,
They have an
Megaton Man
Iranian
multi dimensions.
algorithm.
What?
They have an Iranian algorithm.
I have an Iranian algorithm.
That's right. It doesn't have to be a policy. It's an
Sure.
algorithm.
I understand. Subsequently, the Kickstarter is now live. There has been enough press complaining, hand wringing, and pearl clutching upon downright vitriolic anger, thrown in their direction that the course has been reversed. I don't know that they admit fault, as Mike will get to. And I'm going to let Mike give his rant, and then we're going to subsequently praise this Kickstarter and give you guys some idea about where you want to back this good. So go ahead, Mike.
First of all, I need to say that crowdfunding is what the comic book industry in the United States is all about. You have your Marvel and your DC and your crowdfunding folks. And a lot of the major publishers, other than the two I just mentioned, avail themselves of it. I think it's kind of cool. I've subscribed to way too many. I have tons and tons of all these freebies that I don't know what to do with. But I love the idea. I love it's a democracy, but it's also a test market. If you can make your goal when you're raising money, then at least you have a buy-in from people into your project. So I'm deeply grateful for the contributions that all of these folks started, I think, by Kickstarter, have made. Now, I am equally committed to being pissed off at anybody who limits anybody else's right to free speech. Now, I define free speech the way it's traditionally been defined, which is not that you can say anything anywhere you want. You can say anything anywhere you want as long as you take responsibility for your speech. If you don't want that responsibility part, shut the hell up. Aside from that, as you had mentioned, Bob, Kickstarter has these rules, and if you have rules, then you have artificial intelligence to govern your rules if you have millions and millions of ways to use those rules. And one of them is they screen applicants for nasty words, words that they don't like. And they don't like the word Iran. Do I like the word Iran? It's a country. It's not a product. It's not a person. Okay. Wasn't crazy about the Shah, although he did finance Orson Welles' last movie. But that's it. That's it. You don't ban people from producing comic books because somebody who did 4 pages out of 1,000,000 in an omnibus is from Iran or anywhere else. Period. That is the stupidest of reasons. Now, Don, to be perfectly fair and frank, is a friend of mine. I've edited him. I've worked with him. I've hung out with him, as has Bob, as has anybody who's seen Bob and Don and me at Ithacon for the last 3 years and many, 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 many other conventions. Don is a PhD, which means nothing because he's a great cartoonist, and that's the part that we're talking about. Nonetheless, if you're a PhD, you've paid some dues somewhere and is worthy of at least an additional little amount of respect for having paid those dues, at the very least. So they killed his project, and he went online and said, holy crap, these guys killed my project. And a whole lot of people, it was actually kind of fun, rose up in arms in the ether. And Kickstarter is in a competitive position. There's Indiegogo and many other Zoop crowdfunding organizations, and they compete. And those of you who used to buy your paint at Sears Roebuck and Company know that nothing lasts forever. So they pretty swiftly reversed course. I don't know how Don feels about it. In point of fact, he and I have only talked a little bit about all of this because I'm pissed, and when I get pissed, it goes beyond just the person into the issue. I'm very issue-oriented. So I guess after doing the wrong thing, and it's not a mistake because it's in their algorithm, they have undone that, and I give them credit for that. But come on, really? Somebody wrote up an algorithm that bans people who have come from or are in certain countries? We're talking comic books here. What the hell business is it of anybody's?
So I'm going to go on I can wrap my head around an idea of why a corporation that has liability would be careful with certain areas of the world and where things are happening. Understand?
If they have liability.
They think they do. I think they do, and I think they don't want someone to test them on that. And so that is a good point. It's a very good point. And I want to get to that in a second. But I'm hoping that the lesson learned is that when you get something that gets kicked back, that somebody has to manually look at what they've kicked back. I hope that would be the lesson. I do want to say also that next week's guest has a Zoop going, so there's that. And but back to the do they have liability? I think that's a serious question, and I think that's back to is the world crumbling? Because it is, and there is this ultimate feeling, and one of the things that is palpable in this world that we live in today's thing is that everyone is afraid, or concerned at least of offending the orange Cheeto. And every company, every organization, anyone who wants something from that feels that he could personally attack them or whatever is concerned, whether it's a consulting company, whether it's a billionaire, whether it's whatever it is, anyone, any school districts, people in school districts are just concerned. Like, I don't want to raise his voice, get somebody upset, and then he comes down on us. This fear,
college, universities,
sure, and I can't believe that we're rallying around Harvard. And
I have a hard time with it too, as to a great many of my friends. The fact of the matter is that Harvard deserves our support in this regard. They have become the vanguard on the college interference level.
So I think that probably has something to do with it. I will say that, Iran is a dirty word. According to maggot people, so
who don't eat pistachios,
Iranians. They don't.
No, Iranians. They export pistachios.
Oh yeah, because
I'm sure the duty on them now is pretty high.
I'm sure. Let's take a minute because we're going to bring our guest in because I'm very excited. We're going to have Stephanie Williams on. I don't know if I've said that so far, but Stephanie Williams is going to be on in about 3 minutes.
Okay, well said. I have 2 follow-up points. I really
you can, but let me know when you want to watch the trailer because we're going to watch the trailer for the Kickstarter.
Okay, we'll do it afterwards. Go ahead.
Okay, so this Kickstarter is now live right now. You could be somewhere else on the internet watching the people have a launch party for this Kickstarter. It is already well underway, but let's see this thing that it is we're talking about and take a look at that.
Hi there, Don Simpson, creator of Megaton Man, Border Worlds, and Bizarre Heroes. We are doing a Kickstarter for an anthology called Megaton Man Multi-Mentions, which takes place in alternate realities. More importantly, it takes place in the minds of more than 60 contributors, pencilers, inkers, colorists, writers, letterers, and me, because I'm the cheapest fill-in material I can find. 230 pages, full color, treasury size, called Megaton Man Multi-Mentions, featuring interpretations of my characters, as well as crossovers and team-ups with the likes of Captain Action, Night Watchman, Cynical Man, Second Shift, and many, many others. Legends of comics, as well as new independent creators. Everything has been completed and laid out. All that is needed is your support. We got trading cards, we got original art, we got all kinds of add-ons. This book is coming whether you like it or not. Thanks for your support. That sucks.
Oh, that's great.
So that's what it is.
I've been a fan of Don's longer than I have known him, I should point out.
Sure. Let's do this. Let's get this out here. So this is the book. It's being the project is being supported by Cosmic Lion Productions, which is run by Eli Schwab, who's a great guy. Super excited for that. As he said, it is a huge book with tons of people bringing their characters to mash up with Megaton Man. For example, Chestface is going to make an appearance. Savage Dragon may make an appearance, I believe. It's amazing. There's tons of people involved in it. People who are friends of ours, people who we don't know. It is, we highly recommend it. Go ahead. You'll enjoy it. If you've never read Megaton Man, you should. And this is a great way to get in on the fun. So what other points did you want to make about Megaton Man? And I'll put the link in the comments so anybody can go and check it out, whether they're watching now or later, go ahead and click on that link and check out the Kickstarter.
You covered one of my two. The more important one is this. The moral of the story, the lesson to be learned from this, applies to life itself and not just comics, even if you think comics is just life itself. Stand up for yourself. Don't let people push you around. Stand up for yourself. You have worked hard to get to wherever it is you are, and you probably have a lot more work to do. You don't need jerks to stand in your way, and the only way you'll get rid of them is to stand up for yourself. Don did that. Don did that immediately, and Don got results. So there.
I agree. So we are going to bring in our guest. Stephanie Williams is a fantastic writer, and meme queen. That we're going to talk about that a little bit too. She's wonderful, and I gave a little bit of a tease last week in that we are tangentially connected to the same indie comic. I don't know if she knows that. So we're going to get into that first. I think that's a good way. But in the meantime, I would like everybody to welcome Stephanie Williams to the SquadCast. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello, happy to be here.
Hi, Stephanie.
So
you are from Chicago?
Do you know?
Originally, yes. I grew up in Chicago. Don't know what the Bears are going to do during the draft night, but we'll see.
Nobody knows what the Bears are going to do. What neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up in Harvey, Illinois, in some parts of the South Side. Very familiar. I went to Bremen High School in Midlothian instead of Thornwood. I went to O.W. Hoof Middle School in Matson, Illinois. So, very good times. Yes.
I have stories to tell you about all that stuff, but I grew up on the north side. I grew up in Albany Park.
Yeah.
And, I am still a thorough through and through Chicago and like nobody's business.
As you should be.
I had to start with that and ride right over whatever it was Bob was thinking because of my excitement for our hometown.
So, thanks for being on the show. We now have both of the Williams sisters on the show.
You.
Which is wonderful. Neither one better than the other. They are both your equal sisters.
Thank
you. Do you know how we are both tangentially connected to the same comic?
It's not when I was young, is it? No, it's
no,
not.
It's the Pedestrian.
Oh my God, yes. Because my son drew the Pedestrian. I think that was the first Comic-Con he tabled at Heroes Con, and he did that, and he was really excited. And he's the only kid in his class with a comic credit to his name.
I am the asshole cop in the Pedestrian. See, I had it was just kind of like Dan DiDio beard mustache then, but
it works.
Yes, I am that. Sean drew me as the asshole cop.
That was nice of Sean.
Yes.
It's tough being typecast.
What was funny was that Joey didn't know it was me until we were interviewing him. He's like, "Wait a minute, is Bob in the book?" So, but there's that. Now, onto your career, which we've just kind of seen a little bit of, and you've been so active and so producing so many great comics over the last 5 years or so. Um, what made the meme queen make the leap into writing comics?
She was tired of, hearing how funny she was online and wanted to see if that talent would translate to something that she really loved. Because I originally got online because I wanted to start writing, and I heard that a long time ago you can find space online and fellow creatives and get inspired. So, now originally when I wanted to start writing, it was romance novels, which I will still make my way there.
Mm.
But comics is something that I've always loved. And, I was doing memes before memes were a thing with The Sims. A long time ago, you could take screenshots of whatever you had going on in The Sims, and like they had like a little text box and you could write something. So I actually, back in 8th grade, did a comic that was based on my classmates. I think I did get in trouble for that, but I mean, look where I am now. So it kind of
All
worked out.
good.
Yeah, but I guess too with the memes that I was doing, like there was some storytelling aspect to that, taking these still shots and trying to weave new stories with them. And I thought, well, it's not the exact same thing as writing comics, but we're next to each other. It's parallel. I can figure this out. And then I went and got House of X, Powers of X, the director's cut, and looked at Jonathan Hickman's scripts. And I don't know why I did that in hindsight, because why would you learn how to write comics based on his scripts? And that's exactly what I did. But I mean, looking back on it now, that was probably a good move on my part.
And so
People are newcomers are really curious about the form because they want to
Mhm.
submit something that looks right, even if their
Yeah.
work isn't quite yet, because they're new. So I get that, but when I started out, it did confuse me. It confused the hell
Yeah.
out of me. So I understand that feeling.
Because like, splash pages, double page spreads, like there's a science to that.
Mhm.
And that's something that of course I learned later on. Also just the art of the page turn, and that sometimes that's not even literally the actual page. Like that last panel that is on your left side, just does it make the reader want to move on to the next, and like just figuring out the transitioning and all of that. Yeah, looking at the scripts is one thing, but actually digesting what is supposed to be conveyed to your artist and kind of having those things in mind, because comics is a wonderful medium, and there's so many cool things that you could do with it, but you got to learn the foundational pieces, and what are those things, not asked as rhetorical, but what are those things? And I found it very challenging at first trying to figure that out, but shout out to Scott McCloud, because he has a book available that will help with that.
he's helped
Scott
many a person.
Scott's a wonderful guy, and has contributed to the success of so many people in the last half century. Um, you have to have an appreciation for the form and how the form came about and how the form is, even if your intention is to be a bull in a china shop and wreck everything. You
Yes,
have to know
absolutely.
you have to know what you're wrecking. Otherwise, you're just going to cause a lot of damage and have, a few cheap laughs and and nothing to show for it.
Exactly.
So I I looked at your stuff and I looked through your history, and like you started out writing some stuff that was very personal, very inside your house, and then did some fan fiction-y type stuff with the living single girls, or
Mhm.
which was great. And
Thank you.
then boom, the DC hires you to do Nubia, right? So like, what was the biggest difference you learned doing stuff for yourself and then working for a licensor?
I would say the biggest thing is that you cannot wait for the muse to arrive. In fact, your muse has to be the bills, because deadlines are there and it's very important to meet those. So it was kind of reworking how I worked as a creative. Before it was a lot of, random ideas sparked, and like I could just, pop off a meme real quick, or a short 1-page script. But for when you're writing something that's 22 pages long, 20 pages long, it's meant for a series. Like there is way more thought that needs to go into that, of course, but sometimes the flowery inspiration isn't always there. So how do you get yourself to sit down and get it done? And I would like to liken playing sports. I'm a little bit of a gym rat, and kind of using that to when I'm sitting at my desk, like, okay, Stephanie, like one more page, one more rep. um you know you will be done with this, but you got to write it in order to be done. So not getting caught up in thinking about doing stuff and actually doing it, because you can think all day long and it'd be brilliant and you're wonderful, but until you actually do the thing, you don't have anything to show for it. So it was definitely figuring out that this is not always it's not always fun. And I don't mean that in like a bad way, but like this is a job. This is a job that I want. And I love making comics, but because it is a job sometimes I wake up and I don't want to look at a comic page. But it's a part of work, and I think that's the beauty in it, that I was able to get to that point where I've fully accepted this as my career. I said I wanted it and I got it. So be careful what you wish for.
It's also a job. It's also
Yeah.
a lifestyle. So
Yes.
if you learn habits, the good habits
Mhm.
of sitting down, and it doesn't have to be a stringent discipline. It has to
Mhm.
work for you. And
Exactly.
you have to be committed to it. And after that point, it's all show business. Because if
Mhm.
you act professionally and you turn in your stuff and it's good, you get to continue and you get to be better. And you
Absolutely.
get to learn more, and then it just recycles itself over and over again. Isn't that cool?
It's the beauty in it. I feel like this year I'm considering it my senior year. This would be 4 years writing comics full time. So I'm thinking of it as my senior year, and there is just so much that I've learned over these past 4 years that I am now applying. And now, to use a sports analogy, I feel like the point guard on the floor who can see things before it happens. Like the
Right.
game just flows, the writing just flows. I'm not overthinking things. I'm not second guessing anything. Outlines have become my very best friend. And they're just they're so useful, especially if you're working on multiple projects at a time, and you have in their different worlds, totally different genres. Sometimes it's hard to transition between worlds, but the outline right there, my roadmap, I have it. And this so far this year, I think I've been early on deadlines. And I keep telling my editors, hey, this might be an anomaly. This might just be a 2025 thing. Do not expect this to keep up. But I would like to attribute that to everything that I've learned so far and applying it. And I listen to my editors. Like, they are amazing. And to me, they're the cheat code to getting better at your craft. Especially the editors who are on the ship with you and just trying to help you get your story to where it needs to go.
Which
That's great.
is the editor's job.
Yes.
The editor
Yes.
isn't writing it or drawing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's or she is out there
Mm-hmm.
to get the best they can out of you on time. And that requires helping you get the best out of you
Yes.
because you're not writing it. I love the process.
Yeah.
But as writer, you're the first of the dominoes. If you fall down, the artists and the letterers and the color artists and all the production people and the printing people, they got less time, if any,
Yeah.
to do their jobs. So you can become the villain really bad.
You can. And I think because greatest fear, the reason why I'm either on time or early, because like my career before this, I was a research scientist, and even with that, if you are not timely with your experiments and paying
Right.
attention to what you're doing, then that causes a whole host of problems. There have been many a times where I had to rerun something called a Western blot because I wasn't paying attention, and the protein is off of my jail because I didn't stop it in time. So being conscious of a kind of I don't want to say like it's a conveyor belt and assembly line, but a little bit, just a little bit. If you mess up in the beginning, then it's making hard work for everyone down the line. And I wouldn't want that. Same thing working in a restaurant. If I'm not doing my job as a waitress, then that means that the kitchen is probably not running all that great too. So comics is wonderful because it's such a collaborative process. And I don't know too many jobs where you really get to feed off of other folks. And I don't know, like come together to put something together so beautifully. Hopefully that's the goal.
It works more often than not,
Yeah.
and usually if it's stopped by bureaucracy or
Mhm.
jerks. So after a
Sometimes
while,
they're the same thing.
often,
Sometimes, yeah, often.
often, bureaucracy is the enemy of creativity. It is the
Amen.
greatest enemy of us all. Persistence against bureaucracy. That's it.
Yeah.
Put that on my tombstone.
It will be. I want to talk about. Let's shift gears just a little bit. I want to talk about Nubia.
Yeah.
And what about that? What about the character appealed to you, and how did you approach your take? I mean, let's be honest. The original creator of this character is someone who gets more air on this show than he should. Not and usually not in a positive light, but what did you think when you approached this character and brought her to the present day?
Well, first things first, I didn't realize I was writing Nubia until like an hour into the conversation I was having with Vita Ayala, where I thought we were talking about this 8-page story that I had written for Wonder Woman Black and Gold. It's like, Vita, I appreciate your time, but I'm like, I don't want to waste it on 8 pages. And an hour into the conversation, I think Vita realized that I didn't know that we were supposed to be talking about, what possibly we could do with the Nubia series. And I was like, oh, I'm right. Oh, okay. I'm going to be writing Nubia, which I just wasn't expecting because that's such a huge undertaking, especially for one of my first major comic gigs. Because prior to that, I had only written 2 pages in Marvel Voices Legacy #1. It was a Monica Rambeau story that was very likened to what I had done with Living Heroes. So Nubia was going to be a major shift in what I guess people would have known from my online presence. But if they had read some of the work that I've done for Sci-Fi Wire and other places like that, then this was right up the alley. In fact, the editor, Brittany, when she had read my piece on the Dora Milaje, she was like, okay, I think you would have a firm grasp on the Amazons, because I feel like those two factions have there's a lot of similarities there.
Sure.
So when it came to Nubia, because I love doing my research, I went back to read George Perez's run, just because I'd always felt in the back of my mind that it was a really great encapsulation of who the Amazons are and, why we love Diana. And if I could crack that, then I can make that focus on Nubia herself, because the idea there was to not make her a Diana 2.0, to not make her the Black Wonder Woman, but to make her a character that stands on her own, so that when you hear the name Nubia, you think of Nubia and her importance versus her importance due to her proximity to Diana. And it wasn't a thing of, one is better than the other. Like, no, they're all Amazons. Like, they're amazing. So let's celebrate that. So I went back and I read his run, Greg Rucka, some Gail Simone. But outside of comics, I picked up Madeline Miller's Cersei at the a friend of mine, Aaron Reese, suggested it to me. And I'm so glad that he did, because that book is about Cersei and Athena. And like, it's just it's wonderful. It's the women are, you know, antagonists, protagonists, and everything in between. I knew our story was going to take place on Themyscira for the whole time. So I wanted to figure out, how do you make that interesting when there's really no one else is going to be involved and we're just on the island with these women. And Cersei really gave me the foundation and also the kind of courage to go ahead and move forward with that. So we were asked to, or I'm sorry, told to change Nubia's origin story, which I personally didn't have a problem with. The original story of her being the other daughter that was made of clay and kind of forgotten because she was stolen by Mars. It's fine. Like, and she's sequestered on this island where she's the only woman there, and it is what it is. But very outdated and didn't leave room for a lot for this character. But there were pieces in that initial that initial comic. That was like 3 issues she showed up in, that I found pieces for the character that I thought were great. This is someone who is fearless, because who shows up on Themyscira and says, "Hey, Wonder Woman, I am here to take your crown." And they fight, and Nubia ends up leaving, and then they're able to make good. So there were foundational pieces in the character that I really liked, but how do we push past this? Like, the Amazons are more than just warrior women. And again,
Sure.
like, I felt like George Perez really showed that they are passionate. They are passionate women, and that oh, hey, Brittany. They're passionate women, and they're honor bound. There's a beautiful sequence of pages where I believe Diana goes behind Doom's doorway, and Hippolyta wants to go get her daughter. And Philip is adamant about Hippolyta not doing that, because her duty is to the queen and keeping the queen safe, while Hippolyta's duty is her motherly duty to Diana. And they get into this pretty brutal fist fight where you can tell that they don't want to fight each other, but they're so honor bound to what they feel as though is their duty that they do it anyway. And of course, Hippolyta, best Philippus, and is like, I hope when you wake up from this coma that you forgive me that I knocked you out. And I just thought it was just so beautiful, because it felt like the perfect balance of showing, yes, these are warrior women, but these are women who have other facets to themselves. And the reason why the sisterhood works is because they're so dedicated to one another.
Every character is unique.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all exactly the same, except for one thing. But they're unique. When you're writing a character or the type of a character who is not the bread and butter of the medium, though, or more than just a writer, now you're creating role models. You are inspiring readers who actually need some inspiration. They need the energy and the motivation to do something important.
Yeah.
How do you, and I know you know that because you've explained your history, how do you incorporate that into how you shape your characters?
So, any and everything that I write, I am being my most vulnerable self. And I think that that's important. I feel like the most powerful stories are the ones where, your reader or watcher or listener is, you've created this safe space, and they can see how vulnerable you were in your work, that they themselves allow themselves to let their guard down and get lost in the world. I just recently watched Sinners, and I felt like that while I was in that movie. It's a vampire movie. It's not whimsy, but I'm calling it whimsy because of that. So that's the approach that I take. Dwayne McDuffie, I felt, was really great at doing that, bringing this humanity to these larger than life characters. I love romance novels, and there are a lot of the Black romance writers that I adore, for their characters, they bring this vulnerability, they bring this humanity to their characters. And I feel like if I'm able to bring that to the story itself or the individual characters, that will help me shape and mold and make them feel like, real people that you can relate to. Because the only way to really, feel inspired is you have some type of relation to whatever it is that's inspiring you. You can see some type of connection. So that's when I try to implement when it comes to writing these characters. And Nubia was a tall task because, again, like, if anything, like, this would be someone who could be Wonder Woman. And that is a momentous task in making sure that not only was she represented well, but just the Wonder Woman, shield all together and just that side of the DC universe.
When the first Wonder Woman movie was
Mhm.
released, I went to see it for a number of reasons.
Mhm.
It looked cool is the first reason, but my daughter and I went to see it with a hidden agenda. We were also watching the audience because we thought that a lot of parents, particularly mothers, would bring their daughters,
Mhm.
young daughters, for the experience. And I watched those kids. And I love the movie, first one. But I love that part of the experience even more because
Yes.
first you see these kids are just so awestruck. Oh my God, look at what's happening on the screen. I swear to you, each and every one of those kids I saw, their lives were changed by that movie and changed in a better way because they
Yes.
knew that they could do more than they thought they could.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful? And of
It's
course, now that
beautiful.
burden falls on you.
Yeah. Yes. And it's a burden that I take on with a lot of pride and joy. And it's a humbling one. I think I was at where was it? Rose City in Portland, and there was a group of Girl Scouts that came to talk to me about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And it was just such a surreal experience because, I think there were like 8 and 9. And I don't know, like, it was just really cool to not only show them characters that I've written that look like them, but also to be like, hey, here I am, the person who created the story. And that's something that you can do. I feel like if I would have seen more Black women writing comics, I probably would have realized earlier on that that was something that I could do too. Like, I didn't have to ask for permission to do it, but that was something that I could do as well. So, and not even just for little Black girls, just young folks in general. When I've been able to meet them at conventions or I go to schools and stuff, they're just in awe of someone, being able to pay their bills by doing a thing that I'm pretty sure a lot of their parents are telling them, like, you can't really make money in art. Mine told me that, and I went to science, and sometimes you make money in science unless you're working for like Pfizer or something like that. But if you're in
Right.
academics, not so much.
About 30 years ago, I was doing a store appearance on a store on 55th on near the Midwest side,
Mhm.
about halfway down the west side of 55th Street. It was a wonderful experience. It was an evening appearance. And after doing the store stuff for a couple of hours, parents started to come pick up their kids.
Mhm.
And they sat around and joined in this conversation that wound up lasting till midnight.
Oh my
Till
God.
midnight. And it was a wonderful, fascinating conversation, just talking about, what we can do in comics to make our lives better and more
Mhm.
productive. And then maybe 20 years after all that, I'm doing a show in Chicago. And a kid comes up to me, little girl, who's not little, and maybe your age, I don't know, but at that point, and says, I was at that store, Mike's Comics, which was funny. And she talked about what she's done with her life ever since then. And you could not touch me with a 10-foot pole. I'm telling you, I was so goddamn proud. Our conversation was remembered by that. And again, that job is now yours. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
It's a wonderful job.
It
It's just the
is.
most fulfilling work you can do.
Yes.
I want to say, I think she may have left by now, but the fact that you got Brittany to tune into the show, I'm thrilled by, because I think she is in the top handful of editors in the business and probably the best at the big two.
I cannot state that enough.
She's a
I'm
wonderful person
yes.
and absolute fantastic editor.
She honestly she honestly is. Like I hit Brittany up even when I'm not looking for work. Like I adore Brittany. Always happy to see her when we're at the same conventions. And I mean, I attribute a lot of just my earlier success and figuring things out quickly to Brittany, just because of her editorial style, and just again, like being a really great human, and treating those that she works with, as more than just writers, artists, letterers and colorists, pencilers, all of that. That is something that set the standard for me, so that when I ran into other editors that weren't so great, I could like, no, I'm gonna keep going. I can, I can spot that, and that's allowed me to, side skirt some opportunities that probably would have drove me up the wall or broke me.
Yep.
And also, I'm able to ask myself, like, it's literally like WWBD, like, what would Brittany do? Is what I'm asking myself sometimes when I'm writing. So I attribute Brittany to just really setting the tone for me and what to expect in this space.
I agree with you. I absolutely do. I have a question about
Mhm.
the way you approach your writing. Now you've gone from, a non-writing career to now you
Mhm.
do this, and you have this ability to switch between serious, heavy stories and fun stories aimed at younger readers, and that's impressive. How do you approach
Trauma.
that?
They, I always thought that it was the coolest thing that comedians, when they do something that is a little bit more serious in tone, or a lot more serious in tone, they blow people out of the water,
Yeah.
because folks often think that making people laugh is easy. It is not. It is not easy at all. So with that, I feel like that is just, I don't know.
I think to do
I've
both well is
Yeah, like
even more
I think it
difficult.
makes, yeah, and I think it's the fearlessness, right? Like you got to be a little fearless to go out and, like, tell a joke on social media and either get crickets or it goes viral. Or even when you're at work, you're trying to get that promotion, or that PTO request accepted, smoothes with your boss.
PTO denied.
So yeah, so like being able to traverse so many different genres. Also, I think it's just, for me, I just really love storytelling. So whatever the story calls for, that is what I want to give it. Oftentimes I'll tell folks that, my stories kind of lead me. I don't necessarily lead them. Now I will try to put things back on track, and they're not running, wild or anything, but I try to let my stories and my characters take me where they need to go. So that is really kind of my, my approach in just doing what feels right. Now I don't know if that's something that can be taught, or if that's something that was just kind of always innately been in me, but um it's worked. I've been able to do serious and not so serious. Also, that might speak to my taste. Like, I'm still laughing at fart jokes with my 9-year-old, but then also sitting down and reading some heavy stuff. So I just love storytelling.
uh, Being a mother, I'm sure, helps your writing.
Oh,
Because
yes.
because you understand, you have a greater sense of distance and of incorporation. It's a wonderful feeling. But the sense of humor part, nobody's been able to bottle it. Nobody's been able to teach it. Nobody's, you either have it or you don't. If you need to
Mhm.
blame somebody, you've got a whole lot of ancestors, and damn it, some of them were funny, and you dig that. That's true for all of us. I spent years on radio doing this jockey stuff in Chicago and on the internet, and you're supposed to be funny,
Mhm.
and I don't hold back on that. But every once in a while, you're going to say something that's going to get you in trouble. So, and it's not going to bother you. So you have to learn how to live with that and how to do that, and when it's important and appropriate to do that. I don't yet have the hang of knowing when it's not appropriate, but I do have the hang of when it is appropriate.
I think for the most part I do. And I feel like that might be simply from code switching, which is something that I learned early on. And I feel like I don't do it as much now, if at all, because like you get what you're gonna get. But in that, I really had to read the room, and who was it safe? Where was it safe for me to be my authentic self? And then when did I have to kind of mask a little bit? And I think that might help so far in knowing, what joke to say, when not to say, and all those things. But on the mom side, sometimes my son says something that he shouldn't have said, but it was funny. So I either have to leave the room, or he and my husband get into a little tit for tat, back and forth. It's kind of funny because they look alike, and one is like a smaller version of the other one. So I feel like my husband is kind of getting a taste of his own medicine sometimes. And that is hilarious to me, but I have to leave the room when those moments happen. And it's the same thing with me, because my son also took some things from me that I wish he didn't, the humor part, because sometimes you can't joke your way out of cleaning your room.
Sure.
But you can try.
He tries. He does try. He almost got me once. And I kind of laughed myself back into the kitchen, and I thought about it. I was like, oh wait, no, you gotta go clean your room.
Yes. Well, but that's when you know you got a good kid. He took you on.
He did, and he does all the time.
And that's good. That's good. That's how you learn risk taking.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you start to learn risk taking. And without risk taking, nobody would be able to write anything.
No.
So we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
If you could write any story, what would it be using any character? Is there a story inside that you want to share?
Yes, because if Brittany or any other DC editors are listening right now,
okay,
and they probably know what I'm getting ready to say, because I've been saying it for about almost a year and a half now, but I would like to write a new Justice League of Antarctica. Now, they don't have to be in Antarctica. They can be anywhere. They can be in Bermuda for all I care, but I would love Nort to be the leader. We can even bring in some new C D-lister villains. But I just think it's hilarious that this group came together because they were all in the unemployment office, except for Nort, because they were out of work. And then they got together and like, why are we here? We could just go rob a bank, and a bank was already being robbed. And they accidentally saved the day. And Max Lord at the time, who was, I guess, working on the Justice League building or something, ended up bringing them on begrudgingly, and then because he didn't like Nort, made Nort the captain, and then shipped them off to Antarctica, where they ended up fighting penguins. Not the penguin, but penguins, because that makes sense. They're in Antarctica. So
today we're talking about penguins, and they're being taxed and stuff like that. They can get fought.
Well, tariffs, that's a tax.
Yeah.
But,
well, so Justice League of Tariffs. So no matter what, I will figure it out. But that is my dream project, and that came from working on Strange and Unsung All-Stars of DC Multiverse, because I met so many weird characters.
You mean this?
Yes, that was really fun to write.
I want to talk about this. I would like to know what is the strangest and most unsung character?
Dog Welder. Well, I don't know if he's unsung though, but Dog Welder.
He's definitely the strangest. I don't know if he's unsung. He's got a superstar creator, so he's got a bit of a following.
An unsung.
There's arm pull off there.
it's him. The Creature Commandos are finally getting their due. Black Racer almost broke my brain trying to write his blurb just because what a big brain concept from Jack Kirby. So like trying to wrap my mind around that and distill it to a point where I can explain it to folks and have them not think that I was, a little crazy after reading that. So him, there's a therapist that I found, Dr. Patricia, I believe is her first name, blanking on her last name, but she felt kind of unsung to me because here you are, a therapist who is talking to both Superman and Starfire, especially Superman, and he was trying to like work through, I think, either doing something really terrible to Zod. I don't know if he killed him or not, but he was like haunted by that. But she seemed very unsung, and I would like to see her make a comeback. And then next would be, of course, Ma Hunkel, who is an amazing character, right? Ma Hunkel, yes. So there's just so many.
Created the comic book business. We have to start that point.
Yes.
God.
I mean, I feel like half of the Strange has to come from like the 30th century, though.
All of the Strange came from the 30th century, but also I think that was the first time that I really like the scope of the DC cosmos. Really, I guess, dawned on me. I was like, man, there's so much, but there's like just not a lot and no detail. There's a lot and so much detail for a lot of these characters.
Like
those
who's. They're the thing is huge, and
yes,
I had like all of them, and then I mean, I had the when they came out originally, and then there's the updates because then it's changed, 5 years later because somebody had a crisis or something, and then
the crises.
But
so many.
Why? I'll tell this story. So when the first time I met Marv Wolfman, we were having dinner, and my friend and I were talking about whatever was happening at the time, in DC, and it was the latest crisis or something like that. We kind of mentioned it to him, and he's like, "Oh, they're still doing that? I'm sorry."
Yes.
And so yeah, it's always that. But how did you get this project, and what was about it? Like, tell us about it.
So a lesson in you never know how the things that you're doing, the reps you're getting in as a writer are going to come back and hopefully pay dividends. So prior to writing comics, I did a lot of deep dives on characters, which I just love doing, to just kind of give folks, one place to look at this and then hopefully go read some books. And Brandon Snyder knew that that's what I did, and I love doing those deep dives. And editor reached out to him and was like, "Hey, got this project. Would you be interested?" And he was like, "Well, no, but I do know somebody who would be perfect for it." So I spoke to the editor. At first, the book was called Heck Yeah, Peacemaker, in like a billion other words. It was a really long title. And I just thought it was perfect. And the editor also happened to be a fan of Nubia. So it just it worked out for me. And it was something that I guess I've been, training for the last 6 years, because all of those character deep dives that I've written previously, it gave me the tools to be able to do this, because it was basically my summer project. I think we were even on vacation, and I was like reading comics. So it was fun. I got this hard drive that has all of DC comics from the beginning up to 2012, I believe. So it's
nice.
There's a lot of books on there. They did not ask for that back, and I wasn't sending it back either. So do not ask for it back. It's been years.
I just put the link in the show notes in the comments for your authoring page, which has all those great things.
Yeah, thank you.
One of your things you did is a short history of Puck.
Oh yes.
So Puck is one of the only characters that I can cosplay. So and my wife finds him hilarious, just the concept of him. And so
you're a little tall for the part.
I am, but I can make it work. I can make it work.
Puck is great. Alpha Flight is great and underrated, but Puck is amazing.
Yeah.
I think if they did an Alpha Flight comic today, they'd probably have to charge an extra $1 for it. But yes.
Yes.
It's also Puck is also one of the best named characters. If you're going to grab something from literature, that was the right one.
Yes, but he's named after a hockey puck.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, all right. It's the
I'm a
hockey
hockey
puck
fan, right?
and Shakespeare, all in one. It's perfect.
All rolled in one.
Literally
Chicago
rolled.
Blackhawks were formed by a man who made his money selling coffee, Manor House Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
He had a huge fortune, and he said, "You know what I want to do? I want to honor my old World War I military troop, which is the Black Hawks, named after the Native American war leader, who Abraham Lincoln hated, I should point out. And I only want to hire American players." It's a very interesting guy. His wife designed the logo, which they still use today. And it's all about this thing like a ding dong, you know? You hit it with a stick and you fly real fast and you beat people up. Perfect comic book character.
Now I want Portillo's. I don't know why, but I think it's Italian beef.
I was wearing my Portillo's shirt yesterday.
I'm glad you didn't wear it today.
I want Portillo's.
Well, that usually is what happens. So there's definitely Chicago gets its fair share on this show.
Well, that's because of Gene Ha.
Well, there's that.
Gene Ha's great.
Gene usually is watching. I don't think he's watching tonight. He might be watching.
And he's still there.
He is. Ignition Press.
Mm-hmm.
We had the folks on Thursday. We let them know you were going to be here. They were excited about that as well. How did that come about, and what can you tell us? Which is probably nothing, but I'm going to press you anyway.
All right. So, again, you just never know how things are going to circle back to you. So back in 2022, I believe, Brittany had put me in contact with Jamie, who I think was like at DC for like 1 week when I got there and then left.
When you got there and left. Okay.
When I got there and then he left.
Yeah.
He reached out for me to work on or to pitch for another project. It was a video game title that fell through because I guess the rights were somewhere else and not with IDW. So it was all right. And then he circled back again for a Ninja Turtle thing, but the timing just wasn't right. And then he circled back again because I was going to Boise, Idaho, of all places, for Comics and Art Festival, which is amazing, by the way. Like, I really love that festival. So I didn't know that Jamie lived out that way, and he wanted to know if I could meet for breakfast one day of the con. So met, and I had no idea that it was going to be for this. He told me about Ignition Press and, if I had any stories. Now, what I originally pitched is not what I'm working on. I originally pitched something way different. And before going to Baltimore Comic-Con, Jamie let me know that Philip was going to be there, and, he wanted us to talk and for me to tell him about the pitch. But before going to Baltimore Comic-Con, I was on the phone with a friend, and we were having a conversation about just different Black historical figures. And one of them was Madam C.J. Walker. Now, the conversation itself was kind of inappropriate and shouldn't have been happening because we were making light of our ancestors. But then with the conversation turned serious, as it often does with us. And I was like, man, I guess it would be kind of cool if like Madam C.J. Walker was more of a chemist than a businesswoman. Like, what would that look like? So we talked a little bit more, and I had just written a cosmic horror pitch for Vixen that I had sent. And I was like, man, but I like this cosmic horror thing, like this still hasn't left me. So thought some more. And then it felt like it downloaded down into my brain. I kid you not, like just the story, the concept, and all of it kind of sparked by this conversation about Madam CJ Walker. And I told Philip about it. I was like, this is not what I pitched to Jamie. Hear me out real quick. And I told him everything that I was thinking and like the inspiration and where I saw the story going. And by the time I got done, he was like quiet. I was like, man, I must have sounded like an idiot. They're going to say no to that and the other thing. But no, he really loved it, thought it was brilliant. Sent the pitch, finally went home to type the full pitch out, sent to Jamie, and it was an immediate yes. So that in itself, it kind of I don't know, it floored me a little bit because I wasn't expecting that, and I also wasn't expecting to be a creator that will be part of a launch. Yes, like that was huge. And I think that was the moment where I realized I had made that next level where I wanted to be as a writer. That I'd like, I came with something like that. The muse did come, and I pitched this thing, and I was able to communicate it so perfectly to them that it was immediate yes. And so far, writing it has been that. I'm 3 issues in.
Nice.
Issue 4 isn't due until like May, but again, I saw Sinners over the weekend, and the vibe of Sinners is very much in line with what I'm doing right now with the book that I'm working on. So it was just further confirmation that the story that I'm telling is not only timely, but I am telling it the exact way that I should be telling it.
Nice.
So it's a historical. It's set in 1905. Of course, it stars a Black woman. And I said to myself that I would never write a period piece for many reasons. But again, my growth as a writer and what I believe I can do as a storyteller gave me the permission or encouraged to be like, no, tell this story. Like, it needs to take place at this time. You have a very specific reason for that. So do it. And this has probably been the most fearless thing that I've written so far today. I might get something tomorrow that will change that, but it has been a blast to work on. And Juliet Necker reached out. She's going to be our cover artist. And, she read the first 2 scripts, and her even coming and saying like, I really, really love this and feel so inspired. So to have an artist come back and tell you that, I don't know, like as a writer, none of this like a little energy boost, because like the artist opinion to me, like it really matters. And I'm like, I want you to feel inspired by what you're reading from me. And if you can feel inspired, then that means that the work is going to be inspired. And I want this synergy to be as positive as possible so we can get something beautiful out of it.
I'm very excited.
I'm a little disappointed to hear about you're not really being interested in doing period pieces.
Oh, yeah, I can get into that.
Because decades ago, and for decades, I have wanted to do a series based upon Bessie Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first like 15 years of my wanting to do that, the response was always like, well, who's she? And then after that, it was like, shut up. Go away. We don't want this. Nobody wants to buy any element of this. Bullshit. It's a great story. And if I were in a position to do it, and Lord knows I have not quite retired, I would call you in a heartbeat.
Please do. I think the reason, or no, I know the reason why I originally didn't want to do anything that was period pieces, because I was thinking of all the stories that I had been exposed to where there were period pieces, and of course, Black characters were present, but the way that different topics were handled, it just sometimes felt very ham-fisted, and I didn't like that. There was no art to it.
Ham-fisted
in like this is the racism all in your face. Like, yes, we get it. I know that that's there. But I just feel like there's another way to go about telling this story. There's another, for example, Beverly Jenkins. I thought I didn't like historical romances until I read one of her historical romances, and it was like set in 97 or something like that. So Jim Crow is definitely going on, and Black folks haven't been free for a very long time. Now, while all these things are present in the story, it is not the focus. It is just the background of it. And the focus is on these two characters and how they're navigating their lives and also falling in love. And I don't know, like, as duh as it seems, it wasn't until reading works like that that I was like, oh, wait, no, I can do this. I don't have to ignore history or anything like that. No, I can weave the history in a way that is, it's painful if it needs to be, but there's also joy in it. Again, like, I have to bring up Sinners, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but I really love how Ryan Coogler just weaved in so much history and gave us this story that is a vampire story on the surface level, but it's so much more than that, and it's just so beautifully done. There's a scene where a character is talking about something that happened to a friend, and could they have shown that scene? Sure, but it was more impactful to hear that character talk about it and to kind of have some of the flashback, I guess, audio play a little bit. And then it transitions to a scene that's like, it's just really beautiful and talking about how the blues really comes from pain. And it transitions to it so beautifully. So when I started paying attention to the examples that really spoke to me, I mean, even Gilded Age, I didn't want to watch that. Now I'm watching that and I'm hooked. But when I watch projects, Watchmen is another one. Projects that had such a positive impact on me, but also made me, proud of my ancestors, my culture, and all of these things. And it was not, something to be ashamed of. Never felt that way. But if anything, it just made me want to embrace more. So it was works like that just made me say, yeah, like, why are you being scary? Like, do the thing. And you can do it, and you need to do it. And not being worried about how it will be received or any of these things, because that's not my concern. My concern is to tell the story that I feel I need to tell.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're hacking it out.
Yeah.
That's my definition of a hack writer. Not if you're writing for the money, because we all got to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's the approach. We can write, we can draw, we can tell stories about anything we want to once we've assumed a certain amount of skill. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to dedicate yourself to working out that new story, fine, that's your call. Absolutely. But if you do, be prepared, because it could be a really wonderful ride, and that is how you grow.
Yes. You got to be uncomfortable. I don't know if this will see the light of day. I hope that it does, but there's a Star Trek thing that I worked on that is actually, I think, will be considered my very first period piece. And it was in doing that, and it was really important for me to do it. And I hope I can talk about it later, but that was what broke me out of being scared of doing that. And like, once I got that out of my system, I was like, yeah, like, you're like, don't limit yourself. Playing it safe. Like, we're not here to play it safe. We're here to make lasting impact. And the only way that is going to happen if you do stuff that scares the hell out of you, which is almost all the time when I get to my computer.
There you go. We're always told, about our comfort zones and where we should be, where we shouldn't be, and that's fine. And everybody deserves comfort.
Yes,
but we deserve the challenge. The challenge is fun. If it's all set up in advance, then where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
If you're walking the grounds that you have walked forever, you are walking through nothing new.
Yes. Hey, man, Mike, I should have brought some tithes and offerings. I know you was going to be preaching tonight.
That's fairly regular. You should get used to that.
I like the energy you said that with.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, there it is.
So to wrap a bow on Ignition Press, we are super excited about it. I was super excited to see the folks that are doing this thing, doing it together. Um, and yeah, so I'm super excited for this book. Can't wait to see it. So when it's getting close or whatever, you're gonna have to come back and we'll talk about it.
I will let you know. Yeah,
Um,
so far October-ish.
Yeah,
Sound like Sheree
that's fine.
from Real Housewives, but yeah, October-ish.
Yes, that's fine. When we get there,
You mentioned a deadline you have coming up, and you said it's not until May.
It's
And
not till
that
May.
triggered the editor in me, screaming, "What are you talking about? May is next week."
I know. I know. And I didn't mean to scare you in that way. It's
No,
like
No,
things
it
do like
scared me. It's kind of depressing, actually.
I want to. I know we only have a few minutes left with you, but can we talk about Bitchcraft for a sec?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so let me bring that in here. So this book is being published by Mad Cave, which you are not particularly associated with, but I think you might have something to say about it.
Yes. So Bitchcraft is a limited series by my good friend Aaron Reese, who is no longer with us. He passed away at the beginning of the year. And I remember a lot from that day. Just getting that call. And then I don't know because I was in shock or what, but one of the things that immediately came to mind was, oh my God, Aaron's book. Because it's something that he had worked so hard on, even when he was in pain sometimes. And I just wanted to know and needed to know and wanted to do whatever I could in my power to make sure that this, got out into the world because I knew how much my friend had put into this book. Literal magic, even though the book is, based on witchcraft, but I really feel like Aaron put so much of themselves into this book and what they wanted to see in media. And it was something that they had to be fearless about doing. And it's just a love letter to, Black joy, queerness, all of these things, just witchcraft, because we bonded over tarot cards. So all of these things. And I just feel like it is a perfect encapsulation of just who my friend was, and also just a lot of lives that he touched. Because I feel as though this book is going to be something that I hope inspires others to not only tell the stories that they want to see, but to tell them how they want to tell them. Like,
Yes.
tell your story the way that you want to, not the way you think folks want you to tell it, or what they're expecting, because nothing really great comes from that.
And also,
Yeah.
you're being presumptuous. You think
Yeah.
you know what they want? No, you know what you have to say.
Yeah.
So so Bitchcraft is being published by Mad Cave. The FOC is May 26th, so go to your comic shops and tell them you want it. And it's going to be in stores in June 18th. And I just figured you might
Yes.
want to say something about it. I got one more question for you before we
Yeah.
let you go. And this one is it's a bit of a thinker. So you have this history of nerdy writing, and now you
Mhm.
write nerdy things. Um, why do you think that we as a collective have developed a yearning to analyze, compare, muse, or like thirst about popular characters and stories? Like, why do we do this? Why are Mike and I having this show? Why did you do the things that made you decide, hey, I want to write this? What do you think?
We love to talk. We love to be in conversation. And we're often in conversation with one another, even when we're not talking. And that is through art, right? Um, Talking about the things that we love, that we relate to, is a way for us to form community, and probably even more so now because third spaces are almost non-existent. So like malls, arcades, different things like that. I feel like talking about these pop culture things that we love creates that is a fertile ground on the internet. And it
Sure.
just we've all flocked to it. And it's helped us create like this digital third space, which I think, we'd be talking about this if we were at the mall or, at the arcade or whatever. And also, I don't it helps me relate to you better, maybe you to me better. There have been different things that, when I've been talking to folks and I either use an analogy or, give them example from this popular media that they like. And I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't know that that was a real thing. And it absolutely is a real thing. So many people learned about the Tulsa massacres thanks to Watchmen and Lovecraft
Yes.
Country. And that is, there's, what was it? I'm blanking on a movie that we had to watch when I was like in the fourth grade, but whatever it was, it made me go and like look the thing up. One of the first times I learned about affirmative action was from a Marvel comic. It was one from, I believe, the 70s. It's when Captain America learns, or Captain America, not Captain America. I'm thinking of Sam Wilson, who is Captain America, but Sam Wilson earns a spot on the Avengers because Black Panther has to like go home and they got to have one black guy on the team. So it ends up being Falcon. And Gyrick is being, a jerk to the Avengers because he's got beef with, Tony and all of them and making their life hard. So that was the first time I learned about affirmative action. And I went and, read other things about it, but that was my introduction. So pop culture is, where we are in life, what's going on. And it just, I don't know, like, I just think it just allows us to have conversations even when we're not talking. In my very
That's a
circle.
wonderful analysis. That really is a wonderful analysis because that's how the world pretty much works, or at least
Yeah.
our world definitely works right now. So
Yeah.
that's really good analysis. I like that.
It's interesting because, like, I'll take this a little personal. Like, so my interactions with my sons, I very very obvious to them that I like nerdy things. They are not as much into things as I am, but they get into things and they know that that's a hook that they can talk to me about something that if they're watching The Boys or if they're watching Invincible or whatever that is, and they know that they can come talk to me. But by the same token, they also know that the conversations that we have are substantive about that and about other much more important things. And so that I think that's a really good grounding thing. And in my history, I kind of did that with my father, but the meeting point was sports. Like I could do that. Like we could talk about sports, and then that was like the building block that we could talk about other things that were serious. So I think you made a good point there.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, just real quick, because I do want to share this. Inside Out 2, took my son to see it. Of course, anxiety was the big emotion that they talked about. And after that movie, we had a conversation about anxiety that he initiated by asking, "Hey, have you ever felt anxiety?" And I said, well, "How much time do you have?" Because yes.
In the last 5 minutes?
Right?
These little pills,
Wondering if you are going to need to use the bathroom because you drank that entire icy and are we going to make it home? So anyway, we had that and I learned and he told me like, oh, so like, that's what I'm feeling, blah, blah, blah. So we were able to, it opened up a conversation for us to have about anxiety in a way that, he has a full, has a better understanding of it now, but I was appreciative of that. So, it sometimes it literally opens up the conversation. Because like my dad loves Star Trek. So if I wanted a little extra something, come talk to you about Captain Picard.
There you go. There you go. These are the things we all as humans have in common.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
When
you're a kid, you might be fascinated by something that nobody else has heard of because nobody else has heard of it. Okay, that gives you a job. But after a while, it's no longer a job. It's just part of life. Let's expose people to all this really great stuff. And if they disagree, that's on them.
Yeah.
You know, a
Yes.
great example of that was when Val Kilmer passed recently.
Hmm.
So many people found out that so many other people loved Real Genius, and nobody knew how much we all loved it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
probably my favorite Val Kilmer movie.
Yeah.
that's a very good example.
Yes. Fun fact, I didn't watch Real Genius until maybe 3 years ago for the
Mhm.
first time. The reason
okay.
why I had never watched it is because I didn't like that cover. I couldn't tell where his hair and like the orange background started, and for whatever reason, like when I remember seeing that at like the video store, because I am that old, and I always passed on that movie because of that cover. So one day I worked past that cover, and it's a really great movie.
Yeah.
But you got into the comics business, which is based upon people finding new stuff because they have cool covers.
Yes, yes. Covers matter, folks.
That's right.
Because I'm judging all books by the cover.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging us and being here.
Yes.
And where are you going to be that people can find and meet you?
This weekend I will be at Boston Comics and Color Festival, the 25th and the 26th. You can catch me at Fan Expo Philly in May. I think it's like 16th through the 18th. MomoCon, the 22nd, my birthday. So that should be
You kidding me?
interesting. Yeah, it starts on my birthday. So I'm gonna have a sash,
May 22nd is your
crown,
birthday?
and
Mine too.
it sure is. And there's gonna be
That's
a
not
tip
true.
jar there.
It's mine too.
Yes.
We are
Oh,
birthday
yours
buddies.
too?
We're birthday buddies.
All right, Bob. So I'm gonna have 2 tip jars, one for you and one for me.
Excellent.
So yes. And then of course, Heroes Con. My good friends at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. I hope Carla is not working right now. She might be. But that is in
Send me
not
an email,
August,
though.
June. Yes. 20th through the 22nd. So yeah, and then some other stuff. Maybe hopefully SDCC for a potential major announcement with the publisher for a title that I am so excited that I'm writing, because I think it will be my first. Yeah, technically it's my first ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
I will see you at Heroes for sure.
Well,
Yes,
good
I'm
luck.
Thank you.
And I hope, I truly hope that this happens. You look so interested, and you got that wanna look.
I want to tell you what it is so badly, just
I know.
because I feel like it's a title that one, folks are gonna be like, wow, all right, and then two, just for me to be writing it, I think is just really, really cool. And it was something that my brother and I were able to yell about on the phone in very excited, high-pitched voices. Sorry, Stefan, you were a little high-pitched, but it was something that was like very ingrained in our childhood. So I'm very excited for that to get announced whenever it does.
That's
Awesome.
great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
You are always welcome back, and we'll find a new time.
I'll
for
be
you to do
knocking
that.
on the door.
Awesome.
I'll be back.
All right. Great.
Our door is always knockable.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. We
Of
really
course.
appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
We
That
are
was-
we're rocking and rolling. Stephanie was wonderful. I'm so excited for the things she's doing. She's a shining example of going and getting it, and you know, people can build careers today. I love that.
She has the right attitude.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm not saying for comics, although that's true, but for Earth.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So then, who
I
we
agree.
got coming next week?
Next week, Ron Mars returns to the show. It's been 2 years since he was on the show, which is crazy. I think he was the 15th episode, and he's going to be like the 80th episode. And we're going to talk about his Zoop Kickstarter. The following week, we have Tiffany Babb, and we're going to talk about a lot of comics journalism that night. Probably some nerdy stuff. Rob Venditti is also scheduled the week after that. So those are 3 people that we can announce. We have some other things that are about to be announced. So stay tuned to all of our socials for Pop Culture Squad. One word, Pop Culture Squad. Wherever you go, you find us there. And we'll let you know who's coming and where you need to be, which is Tuesday nights, right where you are.
All right. Thank you, folks, for being here. We always appreciate it. Bob, thank you for being over there.
Yes. Well, thank you for being there. And we will see you guys next week. And stay tuned to Pop Culture Squad. We got some great stuff coming out for the rest of the week. And we'll see you later.
All right.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?